Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is, well, it's pretty simple. We take a mountain of sources, notes, and research, and we distill it all down.
All down to the essential, surprising knowledge you need to be perfectly informed.
And today, we are undertaking a truly chilling deep dive. We're going to a corner of the world where history refused to die. The Novrosk Peninsula.
We are, and it's a remarkable incident we're examining. It's this nexus point.
A nexus.
Yeah, where the slow decay of the Cold War, all that abandoned military infrastructure just collided violently with something much, much older.
And completely extraterrestrial.
Exactly. Our sources detail the discovery of this terrifying, energy-draining strain, and the truth behind a decades-long human conspiracy.
A conspiracy that was fueled by, of all things, a desperate desire for immortality.
All set against the horrifying backdrop of a readily accessible and very much abandoned nuclear arsenal.
That's our mission, laid right out. We are tracing the timeline of human deception and alien technology. Okay, let's unpack this.
Where do we start?
We begin where a lot of horrors do, with a moment of intense beauty and then, well, subsequent terror.
Right.
Our sources describe this really quiet scene. Two young people, Pavel and Valeria, and they're on these frosted cliffs overlooking the Barents Sea.
And they're near that strange stone circle.
Yeah.
The one that's only been there about 20 years.
It's a totally idyllic moment, It's a sharp contrast to the desolate landscape all around them.
And that calm is, it's the classic calm before the storm. The narrative describes Valeria's beautiful smile just suddenly twisting into a primal scream.
The terror is almost instantaneous.
It is. Darkness seems to just materialize around them. There's this horrifying physical sensation.
Hands.
Yeah, bony, dried hands. One source describes it as if the trees themselves were grabbing at them and they clamp right over their mouths. This is the first recorded sign of the energy drain.
But it's followed immediately by the catalyst, the thing that brings our investigative team into the field.
A violent disruption to their traveling machine.
We read how the ship just starts freezing up in the vortex. It's flung wildly forward, sideways, backward through infinity. That level of chaos, it points to a massive energy spike.
An unparalleled one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this spike manifests as a huge escalating distress signal. Initially, Jack Harkness is just whistling, dealing with a regular pulse.
Business as usual.
Right. But that signal abruptly transforms into what the source calls a violent cacophony. It demands immediate attention.
The dynamic here is interesting, though. It's about moral leverage. The doctor's default setting is, caution.
Let someone else handle it.
Exactly. But Jack, ever the agent of chaos and accidental heroism, he confirms the signal is a genuine cry for help.
And the doctor's first reaction is, well, with a touch of professional confidence, he just assumes someone else will get to it.
But Jack preempts him entirely.
He does. He quietly admits he was the one who hit the response button.
Justifying it how?
He says he was morally obliged to answer the call for help. And this is a subtle, but I think a really crucial plot driver. The doctor is forced into action, not by some temporal law, but by Jack's very human sense of duty.
And the destination.
Yeah.
Not some far-flung galaxy.
No, Earth. Early 21st century. A place Jack calls a barren wilderness. He doesn't seem to hold it in very high regard.
That barren wilderness is the Novrosk Peninsula, but what's so fascinating here is that even as our team is arriving...
Which is, 11 minutes after the pulse?
11 minutes after the original energy pulse began, yeah. We have this complete parallel narrative unfolding in the highest levels of the Russian military command.
We cut straight to General Grodny's office.
And this is where the geopolitical reality of Novrosk just smacks you in the face.
It really does. The general, he isn't dealing with an alien invasion. He's dealing with a crisis of systemic collapse.
The sources paint a very vivid picture of Grodny. He's sipping vodka, his face is a granite grimace, and his voice is strained through broken glass.
He's utterly terrified. And what's terrifying him is the energy pattern flashing on his screen.
His terror isn't supernatural, though. It's political. He knows that Novrosk is more than just remote. It's an ultra-secret naval base.
A base that should have been completely dismantled decades ago, but it wasn't.
And this is the horrifying reality of post-Soviet decay. The secret. Novrosk holds 15 decommissioned nuclear submarines.
And the source material really emphasizes this point, reminding you that these aren't just empty hulls. None of those 15 submarines have had their nuclear reactors fully removed.
So they're essentially derelict vessels just sitting there, containing these massive, highly toxic, and potentially unstable power sources.
And the weapons themselves.
That's the real kicker. It's bad enough to have 15 unmanaged reactors.
But we know at least one boat, probably the one named the St. Petersburg, is still carrying its heavy ordnance.
SSN-19 shipwreck-class cruise missiles.
Shipwreck class. The name itself is prophetic, isn't it?
A little on the nose, yeah. The potential for destruction is staggering.
It is. Grodny reveals that these subs could carry up to 24 missiles each. And each warhead, we have to emphasize this, is equivalent to 500,000 tons of TNT.
This is a potential global catastrophe just sitting in a rusty dockyard.
So Grodny's primary concern isn't the life-draining entities or the local villagers.
Not at all. It's the international political fallout. He is terrified that this massive, unusual energy pulse, the very one that dragged our team across the galaxy,
Will be misinterpreted by American monitoring systems as a nuclear launch signature.
The stakes are instantly global. So the mission for him isn't a cleanup operation.
No, it's a catastrophic damage control operation. He immediately dispatches Colonel Oleg Levin and his special forces,
And the order is clear. Investigate under the cover story of a possible radiation leak.
which is done purely to manage international perception and justify having military presence in a highly sensitive zone.
But even Grodny has no illusions about this. He admits, if we can see it, so can they. If we have tried to keep it secret, you can be sure they have known about it for years.
So the doctor's intervention, driven by Jack's moral obligation, is walking straight into a military cover-up.
A cover-up that involves not just secrets, but enough nuclear firepower to level a continent. This is the dangerous stage upon which our drama unfolds.
Which leads us directly to the Novrosk Peninsula itself.
And if the military background is defined by political rot, the physical location is, it's defined by abandonment.
It truly is. It's a perfect metaphor for the end of a vast, failed empire.
The sources describe Novrosk as a place just left to rot, forgotten. You can see the sheer physical decay everywhere.
Rusting derricks loom over the docks, and the 15 decommissioned submarines.
Those silent, deadly hazards.
They're described chillingly as dark slugs edging into the frozen water in their decaying pens.
And this decay has shaped the entire social structure there. It's a closed community. The residents are trapped.
The sources state they are born grown up, and crucially, cannot leave the peninsula.
They live in these dilapidated, freezing huts, sustained by minimal resources fishing, and whatever meager supplies just trickle down from the remnants of the military-run research institute.
This kind of existence, it breeds its own peculiar form of isolated, forgotten governance.
And that's where we meet Sofia Barinska, the sole police officer. She's the figure of recognized local authority, the person holding together the frayed ends of this closed society.
The doctor, with his instant ability to assess these kinds of social situations, he immediately picks up on the psychological toll.
He notes the community is all hurting a bit. They've been hurting for years.
Yeah, that collective trauma of being forgotten while living on top of a nuclear time bomb, it creates a fertile ground for superstition and fear.
And it's into this landscape of decay that Colonel Levin arrives with his Mi-26 Halo helicopter and special forces.
And he immediately surrounds the TARDIS team on the clifftop. Levin's reaction is just instant hostility. He resents this foreign, unvetted interference in his top-secret domain.
But the dynamic shifts pretty quickly. The doctor uses his psychic paper, establishing this ambiguous but, intimidating level of authority.
Right. It forces Levin to move from hostility to this sort of grudging professional respect.
But the doctor earns this respect not just with the paper, but with immediate superior intelligence.
He starts by contradicting the general's entire premise. Grodny sent them there on the cover story of a radiation leak.
But the doctor's preliminary checks show no radiation readings much above background.
So the danger isn't nuclear leakage. It's something unknown and non-physical. And this completely derails Levin's mission parameters.
And it confirms to him that the doctor is dealing with a truth the military doesn't even comprehend.
Which brings us right back to the site of the attack, the stone circle itself. This isn't just a natural feature, it's an engineered structure.
The physical characteristics are highly suspicious. There are exactly 24 stones, and they're not evenly spaced. That already suggests artificial placement.
And Rose, the companion, notices this really unsettling aesthetic feature, how the stones sparkle.
Yeah, and Levin is forced to admit that they looked as new and felt as smooth then as they do now, despite having been there for 2 decades.
Since the base's original decommissioning, this lack of natural erosion is a massive immediate clue.
It raises a big question. Who would build a perfect, unweathered stone circle in a remote Russian naval base? And, well, why?
And this structure is the focal point of the carnage.
The first victim is Pavel Valin, found lying right next to one of the stones. His fate is terrifying, and it defies any conventional medical explanation.
He is described as jellified, all the energy drained from his body and his bones.
Let's just pause on that description for a second. Jellified. This isn't just dehydration or mummification.
No, it implies a total instantaneous failure of cellular structure and rigidity. It's the complete vacuuming of the bioenergy necessary to maintain life and form.
The trauma was so acute, so violently non-physical, that Ilya Sergeyev, the soldier who found the body, a hardened veteran.
He was described as coughing his guts up and vomiting at the site. It was a scene of ultimate biological destruction.
And then there's Valeria Mamontova. She's found alive, but in the woods, far from the stones. Jack finds her in a catatonic state.
And he quickly deduces she suffered a less extreme dose of whatever it was.
The visual evidence is devastating. Valeria is only 19, but the partial draining has caused her body to accelerate aging instantaneously.
Her face is lined, looking aged far beyond her 19 years, with these glazed, fixed blue eyes. She is a living ghost, a premature husk, showing the scale of the power being harnessed.
And faced with this unexplainable horror, the community just defaults to folklore. Sofia Barinska introduces the concept of the Vordulak.
What's fascinating here is the way local superstition provides a framework for coping. The Vordulak is a Russian vampire, often described as an ancient, evil monster that takes the form of a beautiful young woman.
A seductive horror.
Precisely. But the doctor instantly flips the implication. He suggests Barinska isn't just blaming a general myth.
She might genuinely believe that malaria herself is the Vordulak.
Yes. The community, struggling to process a non-nuclear, non-human terror, resorts to accusing the victim, linking the phenomenon to the most accessible, terrifying explanation they have.
It's a tragedy layered on top of a tragedy.
And this is the perfect transition point, because the deep dive reveals this phenomenon isn't supernatural at all. It is pure applied technology.
We need to look at the source of that technology.
So this is where the investigation shifts from forensic analysis to archaeology.
The team eventually locates the alien spaceship, the true source of that chaotic energy spike, and it's buried deep underground.
The ship is ancient. Our sources suggest it crashed centuries or even millennia ago and is now firmly embedded beneath the cliff near the Research Institute.
And the doctor identifies its technology as belonging to the Arcane Collegiate.
Let's clarify that jargon. What does Arcane Collegiate imply for you, for a listener?
Well, you should think of it as ancient, high-level, but standardized spacefaring engineering.
Okay, so not a one-off.
No. It suggests a vast, highly structured alien civilization that had a common technological baseline centuries ago. This isn't some experimental craft. It's a piece of established, sophisticated machinery that has just been silently waiting for millennia.
And the pilot, they find the remains?
Yeah.
Desiccated, mummified, slumped in the control chair.
You might assume the pilot is just dead and gone, but the doctor suggests a much more chilling truth about this high-tech civilization.
He notes that the pilot's mind still lingers in the systems.
The technology is so sophisticated that the consciousness, or at least an imprint of it, survived the physical death.
And this lingering mind is reaching out via the ship's message, maintaining this kind of morbid symbiosis with the machine, and it's essentially driving the distress signal that Jack answered.
So the distress signal wasn't a recording. It was the psychic echo of a dead pilot demanding rescue. And what does the ship actually need to power up and launch?
The ship is damaged, but it's auto-repaired, it's just stuck, and it's in need of a catastrophic energy infusion for rescue.
The doctor itemizes the energy sources it can absorb. Heat, light, the power of the wind.
And most critically, life force.
That life force, the essential energy, is what the doctor formally names later in the sources as mutagenic revivification enhancement energy.
Or MRE.
Right, MRE. And we should be clear, This isn't magic, it's biological energy transfer on a massive scale.
Precisely. We can think of MRE as the fundamental bioelectrical and cellular energy that sustains life and form. The ship needs a massive immediate injection of this power.
And the human conspirators who eventually found the ship, they learned how to harness and focus this need using the most unlikely piece of apparatus.
The stone circle.
Let's dedicate some time to those stones. They weren't just decorative. The doctor investigates a fragment taken from the circle, and the microscopic analysis is truly revealing.
What looks like natural quartz-like impurities in the stone are actually structures that were deliberately laid into the base rock,
The doctor compares it to a printed circuit.
which is a monumental insight. The standing stones aren't ancient monuments. They are sophisticated, resonant power relays.
So the function of the stone circle is to act as receptors, absorbing ambient or targeted energy. They resonate like quartz, broadcasting the ship's signal.
And making the environment hostile to normal communications. We read that the constant radio interference is a side effect as the ether fills with life force transmissions.
It's an accidental side effect of a vast alien communication system being used crudely by humans.
And the human element is crucial because the system wasn't permanently active. It was manually switched on via a crude wire found on the ship's control panel.
The energy drain that causes the terrifying physical trauma, the jellification, only happens when someone touches the stones while the system is active.
Which confirms the entire cycle of horror was driven by choice, by a human hand hitting the switch.
And in the actual mechanism of death, the creatures that are doing the draining, they're described as those terrifying blobby blue jellyfish or something.
Gelatinous, glowing, and slimy, hunting people in the dark.
They look like monsters, but they are pure non-sentient technology.
They are the ship's remotes. They are sent out when power sources don't come to the ship. They are dedicated MRE harvesters.
They drain life force and beam it back to the ship wirelessly.
And they are nigh indestructible to conventional weapons. Bullets have no effect. The source says it's like shooting at jelly, as the holes close instantly.
They are believed to be blind, relying on sound to track their prey. This detail is important because it dictates the ultimate strategy used against them.
And we also know they have a vulnerability. They do not like heat or fire.
This deep dive shows us the mechanism, but the story is truly about the 50-year conspiracy that activated and maintained this alien technology for purely selfish human ends.
Which brings us squarely to the deep, dark conspiracy lurking beneath the base and the tragic, decades-long collaboration between the scientists and the bureaucracy.
What's fascinating here is how the fear of death, compounded by the isolation of the Cold War and the ready availability of this powerful, strange alien technology,
it completely corrupted the original scientific endeavor.
The scientists, led by Igor Klibanov, they found the ship and they realized its potential. Their goal was initially simple: adapt the systems to keep themselves alive using MRE energy until the ship was fully repaired.
But it wasn't just about longevity, though, was it? It was about immortality. They believed that if they maintained the power supply long enough, the ship could eventually launch and take them with it.
Where they would be fully regenerated and perhaps even invincible.
And they needed a place to hide this incredible, unethical project. This links back to the official history of Novrosk.
The main lab, established in the 50s, was sealed off after a supposed containment leak of a highly infectious biological agent.
The paperwork existed, the danger was documented, and the military simply locked the door and walked away.
But the doctor confirms a shocking and pivotal truth. There was never any leak or toxin involved.
It's a masterful piece of deception.
The lab was sealed for one reason only: to hide the scientists who were already using the ship's power. They are still inside, described later as skeletal, mummified husks.
Hanging on to their unnatural lives, just waiting for the next dose of MRE energy.
Imagine the dedication and the psychological toll of that. Decades spent sealed in a lab, constantly needing a fix of stolen life force, waiting for a spaceship that might never launch.
Their lives became a pathetic, desperate dependency.
The conspiracy extended beyond Klebanov and his inner scientific circle. It involved the administrative apparatus, specifically Alex Minin, the admin political officer.
He's the keeper of the secrets, the man who stayed behind to manage the base's slow death, and who was clearly hiding from his own deeply troubled past.
Minin's backstory is crucial because it gives the conspiracy a moral depth that otherwise wouldn't have.
He obsessively researched Novrosk history, cataloging old logbooks and police records as a form of self-imposed penance or escape.
And this research connects directly to the present crisis. Minin reveals a suicide that occurred 2 years prior. Vladimir Chetikhin, Pavel Valin's best friend.
who was supposedly ordered back to Moscow and shot himself instead.
Minin admitted he had been the one who told them, betrayed Chedekin to Moscow. This seemed to confirm Valin's suspicions about Minin's treachery.
But the doctor, using his investigative prowess, checks the post-mortem report on Chedekin and finds a monumental contradiction.
The report stated it was probably impossible for Chedekin to have shot himself in the back of the head at the angle described.
The truth, which Minin later confesses, is that he executed Chedekin. But the motivation is what transforms Minin from a villain into a tragic anti-hero.
Minin executed Chedekin because Chedekin was a secret party agent who was about to betray the entire group, Klebanov, Sofia, and the others, to Moscow.
He was going to expose the alien technology.
So Minin framed the execution as a suicide to protect the integrity of the remaining conspirators in the secret project.
This is the profound moral irony at the heart of the deep dive. The man Valen hated the most, the bureaucratic Minin, was actually the one who performed a terrible act to protect the community and the secret.
And the man Valen mourned as his lost friend Chedekin was the actual traitor. Minin, the meticulous administrator, became an executioner and a silent protector.
This web of secrecy and moral compromise, it stretches back to the very origins of the project.
Including their early catastrophic failures, what Minin called the monkey scandal.
This is where bureaucratic incompetence meets pure, dark sci-fi absurdity. Klebanov had initially brought in live simians for biological weapon research.
An early, crude attempt to harness MRE energy and use it for stabilization or super soldier programs.
But the process was wildly unstable, and the attempt failed catastrophically. The sources state scientists got monkeyfied, turning into proto-baboons.
The project was immediately shelved, and the paperwork was filed under containment leak.
Now, here's the dark humor and the source of the resentment against Minin. Minin, being the pedantic admin political officer, didn't care about the biohorror. He only cared about the budget.
Right.
He constantly badgered Klebanov and the scientists about the incomplete paperwork and the missing budget allocated for the monkeys that were never delivered.
Thereby embarrassing them and exposing the entire logistical and ethical failure to the Soviet bureaucracy. They never forgave him for this persistent administrative badgering.
It's the ultimate bureaucratic horror show. Scientists are turning into proto-baboons, and the political officer is worried about itemized receipts for primates that never arrived.
But the figure driving the immediate local horror, the Vordulak myth, that was Sofia Barinska. Her obsession was intensely personal.
The revelation about Sofia is that the Vordulak myth was cover for her own selfish actions.
She used the adapted MRE system to retain her youth and extend her life. The sources confirm she was the one who originally discovered and showed the crashed ship to Klebanov.
Way back in 1947, when she took over as base director, she's the genesis of the entire conspiracy.
And she built herself a highly secretive personal facility. Her house contained a hidden room with this horrific setup.
A dentist's chair, various pipes, and a dome-shaped headpiece. Her personal adapted revitalization unit, designed to channel stolen MRE.
Rose, our companion, actually witnesses the horrifying consequence of this MRE dependence. When Sofia is interrupted and attempts to kill Rose, she fails to access her chair.
And in those moments of deprivation, Sofia ages instantly, turning 20, 30, maybe 40 years older, right before Rose's eyes. Her face becomes wrinkled and slack-skinned.
And then she manages to use the chair just in time, instantly revitalizing herself and returning to youth.
This confirms two things for us. First, the MRE is not a cure. It's constant, desperate maintenance, like topping up a mobile phone.
And second, the sacrifices, like Pavel Valin, were not accidents. They were deliberately drained to top up the conspirators.
Valeria was a partial victim, interrupted only because Jack answered the distress call, bringing the team in and briefly scrambling the system.
It's a tragedy built on decades of selfish, repeated, and cynical human sacrifice.
And as the truth surfaces and the conspiracy unravels, the crisis doesn't abate. It escalates, drawing in the one truly unpredictable element, Georgy Zinoviev, the blind seer.
Georgy is a tragic figure. He lost his sight servicing one of the decommissioned subs, but in exchange he gained second sight, the ability to see the present and sometimes the future without needing to be physically present.
His prophecies are eerily accurate and specific, which lends weight to his later warnings. He foretold the death of Nikolai Stresnev, describing the man swaying along the quay.
Being attacked by slimy tentacles exactly where the generator failed.
A direct, accurate vision of the blobs attacking Stresnev by the dock.
His critical contribution is a chilling warning rooted in the base's history and politics. Georgie fears the man with the wolf on his arm.
And the doctor immediately recognizes this cryptic reference points directly to Alex Minin, who has a dark mark or tattoo visible on his forearm.
Georgie believes Minin will come to kill him. This creates immediate misplaced fear against the man who is, ironically, the silent protector.
The doctor decides he needs to use Georgie's unique psychic ability to fight the alien technology. He establishes a psychic link to the ship's communication system.
To do this, he places Georgie in a trance inside the bulletproof clean room. And there's a brilliant layer of irony here. The clean room was the former contagious bacteria research lab.
Secured with the code 1917.
The doctor's goal is to channel Georgie's sight to guide the remotes, the blobs, into a deadly prepared trap. He is essentially hacking the alien system using a human mind.
The trap itself is ambitious and utilizes the creature's vulnerability to heat. The team organizes the remaining villagers to block a narrow, raised roadway with a massive pile of flammable debris.
Fuel oil, ripped carpet, broken furniture, creating a massive bonfire designed to incinerate the sound-sensitive creatures when they advance.
But the plan is immediately compromised. The ship's pilot, or the lingering consciousness, is also using Georgie's link.
The psychic influence of the desperate alien mind misdirects the creatures. They bypass the main fire, guiding the blobs instead toward the Institute.
The very structure where the remaining humans are gathered, the communication loop has been exploited against the investigators.
This forces the final, devastating human confrontation. Minin, recognizing the code has been compromised and the creatures are advancing, snaps.
He tries to reach Georgie to break the psychic link, realizing the link itself is now a deadly weapon.
Minin gets trapped in the airlock between the two doors. In his panic, he attempts to shoot Georgie to sever the connection, but misses.
Instead, his bullet punctures a canister marked with a red skull and crossbones.
This releases a deadly, thick red mist, a biological agent. Ironically, the very kind of toxin the base was supposedly guarding against, left over from the base's original, failed research phase.
Realizing he's trapped, dying from the gas, and facing the advancing blob creatures, Minin makes his terrible final atonement.
He sacrifices himself in the corridor. He pours vodka onto a handkerchief, ignites it, and throws himself at the advancing creature.
The creature is momentarily driven back by the flash heat, proving their weakness to fire, and buying Valen, who is on the other side of the wall, precious seconds to breach the barrier and help the doctor escape.
But this act of heroism is immediately preceded by the doctor revealing the truth to Valen. This is the moment of tragic clarity.
Valen realizes Minin executed Chetikin not out of betrayal, but to protect the entire community from a party agent.
His enemy was the protector, his friend was the traitor.
This profound, agonizing realization spurs Valen into immediate, decisive action, helping the doctor escape the facility, driven by a new understanding of loyalty and sacrifice.
Yet the most terrifying danger is still active. While the special forces are dealing with the creature advance, Klebanov and the last handful of skeletal scientists retreat to the ultimate sanctuary.
The St. Petersburg.
Oh.
The infamous nuclear sub still holding his deadly cargo.
Their plan is pure, desperate madness. They believe the ship needs a massive, catastrophic power surge. They are trying to recommission the SSN-19 shipwreck cruise missiles.
Specifically, aiming to perform an airburst detonation.
The expectation is that this explosion, equivalent to 500,000 tons of TNT hitting the atmosphere, will provide the colossal energy needed to fully power the alien ship and finally regenerate themselves into true invincibility.
They are seconds away from triggering a nuclear incident that would be Volcano Day all over again, all to fuel a personal quest for eternal life.
The stakes couldn't be higher. We have seconds left on the countdown. This brings us to the final necessary intervention requiring both a physical confrontation and a technical solution.
The climax is split between Rose's desperate physical attempt and Jack's calculated technical move. Rose hurls herself across the submarine's control room, crashing through the mummified scientists.
Trying to abort the launch sequence, which is down to the final 10 seconds of primary ignition. She's grabbed by the skeletal husks, attempting to manually stop the end of the world.
Meanwhile, Jack is working on a fundamentally different principle. He realizes the entire system, the creatures, the ship, the power transfer, is one massive, interconnected loop.
Attendant on the scientist's local power station.
So he leads the remaining remotes, the few creatures that survived the fire trap, back to the Institute's sealed lab where the scientist's massive power transmitter is located.
This transmitter is the single greatest human-built power source in the area. When the remotes, desperate for energy, latch onto it, they create an instantaneous and catastrophic feedback loop.
The power flows. Blobs receive energy, feed it to the ship needs more, draws it from the transmitter, which then feeds the blobs.
This uncontrolled energy cycle instantly drains the ship's reserves, overloading the entire system and shutting down the MRE harvesting process simultaneously.
It's an elegant, self-defeating technical solution.
And the effects are immediate and absolute. The creature remotes lose their structure, their glow vanishing, and they melt and collapse into mere viscous blue puddles.
Their borrowed energy is gone.
And the conspirators. They face the ultimate instant reckoning. As the MRE that held their bodies together vanishes, time catches up to them in a moment.
The scientists, including Klebanov, instantly crumble into dust, their bodies disintegrating, the decades of stolen life finally coming home to roost.
The physical threat is neutralized, and now comes the aftermath and the political cleanup.
Colonel Levin, having witnessed the impossible, surprisingly proves himself to be an effective, if cynical, political actor.
He leverages the horrifying secret of Novrosk. Levin successfully bullies his superiors in Moscow.
He threatens to reveal the illegal activity, the decommissioned reactors, the failed biological research, the entire decades-long conspiracy, unless they fund the village's rebuilding and disarmament.
Novrosk, a place abandoned for decades, finally gets a guaranteed future through political blackmail rooted in the severity of its secrets.
However, the trauma remains visible in Valeria. She survives, physically rescued by Jack, but she remains aged, wrinkled, and staring blankly ahead. Her transformation is permanent.
But the final moment provides a flicker of hope and connection. Jack says goodbye, kissing her gently on the cheek.
And in response, she exhibits a flicker of consciousness, wrapping her arms around him and holding him tight in the cold snow.
It suggests that while the physical and psychological damage is devastating, the human capacity for connection and perhaps eventual healing is not entirely extinguished.
This has been an incredibly complex deep dive, weaving together history, physics, and profound moral compromises.
It really has. So let's synthesize the key takeaways for you. This dive showed us how ancient alien technology, the arcane collegiate ship, crashed centuries ago. It wasn't the root of the terror. It was merely the tool.
The horror was enabled by the worst kind of Cold War military decay and neglect, allowing a profound local human tragedy to unfold.
And the source of the killer deviant strain was not an exotic disease. It was mutagenic revivification enhancement energy.
A crude biological energy transfer mechanism delivered via a resonant alien circuit hidden in plain sight, the Stone Circle. The stones were the switchboard for a vampiric, self-sustaining conspiracy.
And what ultimately exposed this decades-long web of lies wasn't the arrival of our investigative team, but the meticulous, desperate work of one man, Alex Minin.
Minin's dedication to researching the base's history, cataloging the old logbooks, police records, and bureaucratic failures purely as an escape from his own conscience and guilt over Chedekin was ultimately the leverage the doctor needed.
The leverage to understand the mechanics and the true motivations of the sealed lab. Minin's bureaucratic obsession provided the forensic detail necessary to dismantle the conspiracy.
The source material leaves us with a community saved by blackmail, a moral calculus overturned, and Valeria, who survived but remains physically aged and traumatized.
Which means we must ask ourselves this provocative final thought. Novrosk was built on secrets, fueled by a selfish quest for eternal life, and ultimately saved by an act of political corruption. In a world defined by hidden dangers and compromised morality, what is the true cost of prolonged life? And is true survival defined by avoiding death or by maintaining one's capacity for fundamental human connection, even after suffering a deviant strain that stole decades of your existence?
It's a question that hangs heavy in the cold Arctic air.